Mangaroos Tutoring Services, Mathematics Classes.
Geometry, calculating angles. Angles in a triangle. So before we calculate angles in a triangle, please revise your triangles. Remember the different types of triangles. We do have a video on that where you will encounter things like equilateral triangles, isosceles triangles, scalene triangles, and right-angled triangles. In a triangle, the angles sum to 180 degrees. This example shows us that this angle plus this angle plus this one will all add up to 180. So 40 plus 80, which is 120. If we take that away from 180, we will get 60 degrees. Next, we have another question. These dashes on the sides indicate that the length of these two sides are equal, and therefore the corresponding angles are also equal. So these two angles are equal. So if we take 40 away from 180, we will get 140, which is the remaining angles. So the two angles is equal to 140. If we divide 140 by 2, we will get 70 degrees. Next, example 3. The three angles are equal because they are labeled the same with the same letter. Also, there are dashes on three sides which indicate the three sides are equal. So they all add up to 180 degrees. So if we divide 180 by 3, we will get 60, which is the size of each of the angles. Next, this small box and the corner of the shape indicate that this is 90 degrees. This is 30 degrees, so if we add them together, we will get 120 degrees. And we take that away from the total, and we will get 60 degrees. So here we have 3 questions. So you can pause the video now and attempt these questions, and then unpause for the answer. You can also try these questions. Let's take a look at number 1. So if we add these two angles together, we will get 120. And if we take that away from 180, we will get 60 degrees. Number 2, 90 plus 40 is 130. 130 from 180 is 50. Number 3, all of the angles are equal, so they are all equal to 60 degrees. An equilateral triangle, in an equilateral triangle, all of the angles are 60 degrees. Number 4, this is an isosceles triangle, so the two angles here are equal. So if we take away 90, the given angle, we will remain with 90. And since the two angles make up 90 degrees, we divide 90 by 2, we will get 45 degrees, which is equal to y. Number 5, if we take away 20 degrees from the total, we will get 152, which will make up these two angles. So we simply divide 152 by 2, and we will get 76. And lastly, number 6. We can see that these two angles are different because they are labeled a different letter. This angle will be equal to this angle as it's an isosceles triangle. So E is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. 60 from 180 is 120. So D is 120. External angles in a triangle. So you can take down these examples. Right, on a straight line, the angles sum to 180 degrees. So on a straight line, where we have two angles or more meeting at a point on the straight line, these angles will sum to 180 degrees. So even if we had it like this, these three angles will sum to 180 degrees. So 70 plus x is equal to 180. So if we solve for x, right, so there's another way we can work it as well. Sum of opposite interior angles, we will still get this. Alright, so let me show you another way to work it out. So we can say angles in a straight line is equal to 180 degrees. So we take away the given angle, which is 70, and we will get 110. Right? Or according to the rule that we are seeing here, we can say x is equal to sum of the opposite interior angles. So that is this right here. 30 plus 80 is 110. So the answer is also 110. Right? Same answer, different working. So you all can try it both ways. So again here, 80 plus x is equal to 180. So 180 take away 80 will give you x. Or we can say 30 plus 70 is 100, which is also equal to x. Similarly, we can say 70 plus 80 is 150, and that is equal to x. 30 plus 150 is 180, so that is also equal to x. So let's try a few questions. Attempt exercise 1, and then we go to the solution. Pause the video now, please. All right, let's continue. X will be the sum of the opposite interior angles, so that will be 50 plus 60 is 110. That's x. Y will be equal to 70 plus 60, which is 130. And z will be 50 plus 70, which is 120. Number 2. Y is equal to 90 plus 41, which is equal to 131. What do we have here? Oh, sorry, I'm using the wrong rule, my mistake. So let's do a normal calculation for your angles in a triangle, which will be 41 plus 90 is 131. 131 from 180 is 49, so y is 49. And now z will be 90 plus 41, which is 131. Next, we have Q is equal to 39 plus 55, and we take that away from 180. So that will be 180, take away 94, which is 86. and R will also be 39 plus 55, which we have already worked out to be 94. Number 4. Right, so if all of these angles are equal, then they are all equal to 60 degrees. Right, so we already know that from equilateral triangles. And then W will be equal to 60 plus 60, which is 120. So here we have a few more questions, which should be easier now that we have gotten some practice. Pause the video now and attempt these, please. Let's go to the answers. So x is equal to 45 plus 60, which is 105 degrees. Y is equal to 180, subtract the sum of these two. So that'll be 180, take away 150, which is 30. And Z is equal to these two angles summed, which is equal to 150. #80 plus 40 is equal to 120, which is the value of R, and 180 take away 120 is equal to 60, which is equal to Q. Next, these two angles are equal. So 180 take away 50 will give you 130, and then we divide that by 2, we get 65. So Y is 65. And now W is equal to 50 plus 65, which is 115 degrees. Exercise 3. Try these, please. That's correct. So we can see x is equal to 135 degrees, y is equal to 45 degrees. For number 2, y is equal to 45 degrees and x is equal to 135 degrees. For number 3, a is equal to 60 degrees and b is equal to 120 degrees. And lastly, y for an equilateral triangle is 60 degrees and w is 120 degrees. Calculating angles in a quadrilateral. So before we watch this video, we should learn our quadrilateral names and properties, or at least revise them. So what we should know ideally for this topic is that the square and the rectangle, all of the angles are equal to 90 degrees. The rhombus and the parallelogram, the opposite angles are equal. They have 2 acute and 2 obtuse angles. In a kite, there are 1 pair of equal angles. In a trapezoid, all of the angles are different. And for the trapezium, we have 3 different types of trapeziums. One where 2 of the angles are equal to 90 degrees. Another one where we have equal angles. And there's another one where there is no 90-degree angle or no equal angles. Alright, so once you have finished reviewing that, we can go on to angles in a quadrilateral. So we know that angles in a quadrilateral sum to 360 degrees. So let's try some questions. So what shape is this? These dashes here indicate that all of the sides are equal. It is not a square, so it is a rhombus. So in a rhombus, the opposite angles are equal. So x would be 65 degrees and y will be 115 degrees. Number 2, we have a parallelogram. These two sides are equal and these two sides are equal. So A will be equal to 60 degrees. We have to solve C and B. So you can pause the video now and attempt these if you know how to, or you can move ahead now to the solutions and then attempt the exercise. Let's continue with exercise 1. Okay, so question 2. We know that A is 60 degrees. Okay, so we have some mistakes here, so we'll have to correct question 2. Hopefully it's just question 2. So B plus C, or B plus C is equal to 180. No, let's do this over. So we know that A plus 60 degrees, let's do this over. A plus 60 degrees would be 60 plus 60, which is equal to 120 degrees. Right? And then the remaining angles B and C. So 360 take away the other two angles will give us 240 degrees, right? So we know that B and C will sum to 240 degrees. We know that B and C is equal, so B or C is equal to 240 degrees divided by 2, which is equal to 120 degrees. So the worker before wasn't wrong. The person just used a different method, which is that these two angles will sum to 180 degrees. So 180 take away 60 is 120. We can use that method as well. All right, let's work on number 3. Again, opposite angles are equal in a parallelogram. So x will be 55 degrees. Right, these two angles will sum to 180 degrees. So you can say, there are so many ways that we can write this. We can say z is equal to 180 minus 55. Let's try that. Or we can say if we add these two together, 55 and 55, and we take it away from the total, we will remove 250. And we know that these two are equal, so we just divide 250 by 2. So let me say that again. these two angles are equal. 55 plus 55 is 110. 110 from the total angles, 360 is equal to 250. So 250 will be the total for for y and z. And since they are equal, y and z is equal, opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal, then we can simply divide it by 2 to get the angle for one of them. So instead of putting plus, we can put a comma. Y or z is equal to 125. This method, we'll learn this a little bit later on. And number 4, again, the angles in a quadrilateral sum to 360 degrees. So if we add all of these, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and we take it away from 360, we will get Q. Right, so now exercise 2, you can try exercise 2. The help with exercise 1 should have equipped you to do exercise 2. Alright, let's correct. So z is equal to 40 degrees. X plus y will be the total angles, take away 40 and 40, which is 280. 280 divided by 2 will give you x or y. Number 2, y will be 105 degrees. X plus y will be 360 degrees, take away y plus 105 will remain with 150. So these two added together will give you 150. So 150 divided by 2 will give you x or z. And we have the same method for number 3. X is 75 degrees and y is 105. Alright, and lastly we have number 4. So 90 degrees plus 90 degrees is 180 degrees. Plus 35 is 215 degrees, which leaves us with 145 degrees for x. Alright, so exercise 3 is again similar, so we should be able to get all of these correct. So pause the video and try these now. Alright, so we don't have answers, but that's okay, we can work out the answers now. So y will be equal to 110 degrees. So if we add 110 plus 110, that will give us 220. So let's say 360 take away this here, which is 220, and that will give us 140 degrees. So x and z is equal to, also will sum to be 140 degrees. So if we want x or z, we simply divide 140 by 2. Number 2. So y is equal to 50 degrees. Opposite angles are equal in this case. So x and z, how do we get x and z? Well, we take away the known angles from the total. So x over z would be equal to 260 divided by 2, which is 130 degrees. Right, so number 2 is 130 degrees. Number 3, we are solving x. So all we need to do is add the 3 given angles and subtract it from 360 degrees. Right, so x is 140 degrees. Next, we have 90 degrees plus 90 degrees plus 20 degrees, and we take that away from 360 degrees. So that is not drawn to scale. This really should be more than 20 degrees. That should be 120 degrees. So let's change that to make a more realistic question. All right, last set of questions now. All right, so you can attempt these. This is a kite, a trapezoid, a trapezium, and a rhombus. All right, let's begin correcting. Number 1. So these two angles are equal. So we are going to add these two angles and subtract it from, that should be from 360 degrees. So let's correct that. Alright, so 360 take away these two angles will leave you with 285. We divide that into 2, you get 142.5. Number 2, we add the given angles and we subtract them from 360, which will give you 160 degrees. 3 and 4, it's a bit more advanced. You have to think for these. C was not given, but since this angle is equal to this angle, or rather this side equal to this side, then this angle will be equal to this angle. So B is 47 degrees, and also this angle will be equal to this angle. Because these two lines are parallel and these two sides are equal, the following angles will be equal. Alright, so now that we know that, A plus C will be 360 take away 47 plus 47, which will give you 266. And since A and C is equal, then we can divide 266 by 2 to give you 133 degrees. Number 4. So here we have a rhombus. So y is equal to 33. Opposite angles are equal in a rhombus. X is equal to z. So 360 take away the given angles. That will leave you with 294. And we divide that by 2, that will give you 147. Calculating angles in a polygon. So here we have a formula that we can use. The sum of the angles in a polygon is equal to 180 multiplied by the number of sides minus 2. Example, a pentagon. We should know that a pentagon has 5 sides. So whether it be regular or irregular, this formula would work. So 180 multiplied by 5 minus 2, which is 3. 180 times 3 is 540. So whether it be this regular polygon, or if we have an irregular polygon, the sum of the angles will still be equal to 540 degrees, and that's the sum of the internal angles. Right, so the size of each angle in a regular polygon where all the angles are equal. We can determine this by dividing the sum of the angles, which in this case is 540 degrees, by the number of angles, which is equal to the number of sides. So in this case it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles. So 540 divided by 5 is 180. 108 degrees. So your internal angles is 108 degrees for a regular polygon. So you can pause the video now, take down the formula and the example, and then you can try the exercise below. When you are finished, you can unpause the video and we will go through the answers together. Alright, let's resume. So I have included the triangle as well. For a regular triangle, which is an equilateral triangle, the number of sides, of course, is 3 for all triangles. 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 times 180 is 180 degrees. And for each of the angles, it will be 180 divided by the number of sides, which is 60 degrees. A regular quadrilateral is called a square. A square has 4 sides. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 2 times 180 is 360 degrees. The internal angles for the regular quadrilateral would be the total of the angles divided by the number of sides. 360 divided by 4 is 90 degrees. The pentagon, we already did the pentagon in the example, so I will not go through this again. Next, we have the hexagon. So the number of sides, we can easily count the number of sides or learn the number of sides or angles, which is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4, and 4 times 180 is equal to 720 degrees. So to find the size of each angle, we simply divide 720 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which will give you 120 degrees. Next, we have a septagon, a 7-sided polygon. 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 multiplied by 180 is 900. So that's 900 degrees in total. 900 divided by 7 will give you 128.6 degrees. Right, and we can follow these steps for the octagon, for the nonagon, and for the decagon. So you can feel free to pause the video, go through the solutions, make any necessary correction, and then unpause the video to continue. Angles in a circle and angles meeting at a point. What do you mean by angles meeting at a point? We have lines coming together to meet at one point. Then the sum of the angles at that point will be equal to 360 degrees. So A plus B plus C would be equal to 360. So for example, if this is 120 and this is 150, then this last angle will be 90. We add them up together, you'll get 360. Nine plus 7 is 16. 2 plus 1 is 3. Which is similar for a circle. Well, that's an oval, but you all understand. Angles in a circle and angles meeting at a point is basically the same thing. Okay, so let's take a look at some questions. Question 1. Find the sum of the angles. So we have the three angles given, 120, 150, and 90. Next we have what is angle A. So we know the total. And we have the other two angles and we have to find the missing one. And the third question is, the angles are given in terms of x. So we must find what is the value of x. Number 4, find the value of x. So we have 1, 2, 3 of the angles. So we have to find the missing angle, x. And question 5, all of the angles are equal. So we must find x. So you can pause the video now and attempt these, and then we'll go through the answers together. Okay, that's correct. So number 1, we should all be able to add at this point 120 plus 150 plus 90. That's 360 degrees, exactly the question we did before. Number 2, 80 plus 30 is 110, and if you take 110 away from the total, we'll get 250. Number 3, we can add these together, we'll get the answer in terms of x. X plus 2x is 3x. 3x is equal to 360 degrees. So we can find x by simply dividing by 3, and we'll get 120 degrees. Number 4, we can add these angles together, the three angles that is given. We'll get 245, we take it away from the total and we get 115 degrees. And number 5 is basically the same as number 3. When we add the x terms, we'll get 3x. 3x is equal to the total. So 1x is equal to 120 degrees. So you can check through the answers, make sure you got them correct. If not, you can make your corrections. Alright, let's continue. So here we have some new rules. So, or new types of angles. Complementary angles. These angles sum to 90 degrees. So that's like a right angle. Right? A plus B will be equal to 90 degrees. So if we are given A or B, or one of the angles, we can find the missing one. And here we have an example. 60 plus what will give you 90? 60 plus 30. Number 2, we have supplementary angles. These sum to 180 degrees. So C plus D will give you 180 degrees. So here we have an example. 70 plus some number will give you 180. So 180 take away 70 will give you the missing angle, x, which is 110. 70 plus 110 is 180. Next, opposite angles are equal, so that this is for intersecting lines, so the lines must be straight lines. Right? It mustn't be lines where all of them come at a different angle. Right? Those are not what we consider to be intersecting lines or intersecting straight lines. They must make like an X like a scissors. Think about it as a scissors. There's one pivot for two straight lines. Right, so we have the opposite angles A being equal to A and B being equal to B. X being equal to X, Y, Y. Opposite equal, opposite equal. So here we have an example. We are given 40 degrees, so the opposite angle D is equal to 40, and likewise C would be equal to 140. And next, this one requires some calculation. So we have 30 degrees, so we know A is 30, but we don't know B. So we can take away 30 plus 30. We can take this 60 away from the total, which is 360, take away 60, and we'll get 300. Right, you can see that right here. So we have the two angles that we can easily find or use. Take it away from the total, we'll get the remaining angles. And then 2b is equal to 300. So we divide 300 by 2 to find b. So b is equal to 150 degrees. So now we can look at the other. Oh, we have some questions. Let's look at the questions. No, we have the two other rules and then questions. All right, so we have alternate angles, or some persons call it Z angles, right, where these two angles are the same. Right, the Z doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to have two parallel lines and a line cutting straight across. Right, it can be this way, it can be this way. Right, it can be this way, two parallel lines. Okay, so let's look at the examples. Now if you look at this one, it's not only on the acute angle, it can also be on the obtuse angle. Once the Z is formed, it can be on the outside as well. Alright, so this one here we have 42 degrees, so this will be 42. 64, so G will be 64. 130, so E will be 130. Simple. Right, did I give you time to take this down? If not, you can pause the video and take this down. Alright, so next we have co-interior angles. Co-interior angles are supplementary. So we have E plus F will be equal to 180 degrees. Right, the key thing is that this line is parallel to this line, and then we have a straight line cutting through those parallel lines. Right, so then we have, some persons call it C angles because it forms C, right? So we have N plus P is equal to 180. Likewise, we have two parallel lines. These two angles A and B will be equal to 180. So 75 plus A is 180. So we can take 75 from 180 and we'll get A, 105 degrees. B plus 135 is 180. So 180 take away 135 is 45 degrees. And C, 180 take away 110 will give you 70 degrees. And then we have this last rule, corresponding angles are equal. So again, these lines must be parallel. So if these lines are parallel, this line will be going at the same angle to this line and to this line, because these two are going in the same direction and this line is a straight line. So AH here will be the same as AH here. If we had an angle here, it would be the same as the angle here. If we had an angle here, it would be the same as the angle here. If we had an angle here, it would be the same as the angle here. And it's easy to look or to watch and see that, right? It's not complex. So we are seeing 3 examples. You all can look at them. This is 80 degrees, so this will be 80 degrees as well. Corresponding angles are equal. So you can pause the video now and take down this rule with the example. If you didn't get time to take down the last page, you can also do that now. Alright, so let's try some questions. Alright, so now we are equipped to do an exercise. We just went through a couple of rules. We went through complementary angles, supplementary angles, opposite angles, co-interior angles, alternate angles, corresponding angles, angles meeting at a point, angles in a circle, right? So we can utilize these rules and we can effectively solve these questions. So pause the video now and attempt these questions. Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 should be especially easy. Numbers 5 and 6 requires a little bit more work, but we have all the rules to solve them. So after attempting these, we will go on to the solution. Alright, so now that we have attempted these, we can solve them. Let's do that together. So for number 1, we have a straight line angle. We know that this is a 90-degree angle. So this remaining angle here will also be 90 degrees. So this here is a complementary angle. So we know that x plus 65 will be equal to 90. So x will be equal to 90 take away 65, which is equal to 25 degrees. Number 2, we have opposite angles. So since this is a straight line and this is a straight line, right, B will be equal to 110 degrees. We know that angles meeting at a point is 360 degrees in total. So if we take away these two from 360, we'll remain with 2A. So we can say that 2A is equal to 360 degrees, take away 110 plus 110, which is 220 degrees. So 2A is equal to 140 degrees. So 1A will be equal to 140 divided by 2, which is equal to 70 degrees. Number 3. So we have one simple rule to apply, which is co-interior angles. So since this line is parallel to this line, and we have a straight line going through, then these two angles here will sum to, yes, 180 degrees. So P will be equal to, or let's write it, as 130 plus P is equal to 180. So P will be equal to 180 take away 130, which is 50 degrees. Good. Number 4, alternate angles. So this line here is parallel to this line. So this angle will be equal to this angle. Right, number 5 and number 6, we can't do that. However, we will build up to that level of complexity. Right, let's do a few more questions before we do this one. So let's take a look at these 6 questions. So here we will utilize the rule of corresponding angles, angles meeting at a point, alternate angles, supplementary angles, complementary angles, angles meeting at a point, opposite angles, and again, alternate angles. So when you are ready, you can try these, pause the video, and then unpause the video for the corrections. All right, good. Let's continue. So for practice, you can write the rules down as you utilize them. So y plus 135 will give you 180. So y is equal to 180 take away 135, which is 45 degrees. Next, alternate angles. So since this line is parallel to this line, then this angle here will be equal to this angle here. So x is equal to 65 degrees. And angles meeting at a point, they sum to 360 degrees. So 360 take away 65 will give you 295 degrees. Next, we have supplementary angles. These are angles that sum to 180 degrees. So T will be equal to 180 take away 131, which is 49 degrees. Number 4, again, complementary angles, they sum to 90 degrees. So W plus 55 is equal to 90. So W will be equal to 90 take away 55, which is 35 degrees. Number 5, we have opposite angles. So Q will be equal to 56. Q plus Q, which is 56 plus 56, is 112. 360 take away 112, so let's put that in. All right, that will give you 248. And since R is equal to S, then we can simply divide by 2 to get R or S. 248 divided by 2 is 124. So lastly, we have alternate angles again, or Z angles. So C will be equal to 68.
Thank you for watching. If you have found this video to be helpful, please feel free to contact us for more information about our classes.